She's very knowledgeable in this product. I also have Yolanda Sholi. She will also be assisting with some of the questions that will be coming from your side. And from SARS, I have my ops manager by the name of Busisiwe Mpele. She's based in Standerton, and she's been very instrumental in making sure that this particular webinar happens together with Pamela. And I would like to appreciate their efforts. Pamela, let me hand over to you just to kickstart this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rupert. Thank you for that beautiful introduction. I see we've got a couple of hands. Is it with regards to the audio on YouTube? We're working on that. If it's anything other than that. Yes, Courage? Courage, you can quickly unmute and let us know why you've got your hand raised. Kotato? Yes.
Hello, everyone. No, it was regarding the audio. When you guys had things that we could raise our hand if you can hear you.
Yes, we're working on the audio on YouTube. All right. Thank you, everybody. All right. So I think this is a good time for us to start with the presentation that will be conducted by Nokuthula from SARS. Nokuthula, please take it away.
Thank you very much, Pamela. Can you confirm if you can see my screen?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Yes,
and you can confirm that I'm very much audible, right? There's no glitches or anything.
Very much audible, unlike the
YouTube
channel.
Thank you very much, yeah.
Thank you very much. As mentioned, thank you very much, Mr. Ndlovu, for the introduction. My name is Nokuthula Mbata, and I'm the support consultant for the EasyFile as well as the e-filing applications that employers use to make their submissions. And also, as mentioned, I am joined in by Yolanda Sholi, who is on the chat box. She will be answering the questions as I go through the presentation. EasyFile, this could be a lengthy presentation, so it'll be very useful that you are engaging with Yolanda or have any questions written down so that we could have clarity and so that you do understand how you make the submissions using the EasyFile application. And remember, as Mr. Ndlovu explained, that it is very imperative that you are able to make the submission so that your employees are able to also make the submissions when it's the employee's submission field. Okay, so I'll be doing that EasyFile employer. There's also on the SARS website, you are also able to receive all your guides as well as your training manuals that are available for you to view and see for this training. Okay, so just to go straight to EasyFile, EasyFile is an offline application, but it also uses e-filing. Okay, so before you go on to EasyFile, you need to make sure that your e-filing is also set up accordingly, because EasyFile uses e-filing online verification when the user needs to synchronize EasyFile with SARS. This is when information is sent to SARS or information is sent from SARS to e-filing or the system. Okay, so the user needs to make sure that they do pass the online verification by checking the following, right? So you need to first check that your employer, which is your EMP501, has been added to your e-filing profile and that that tax type is activated. And how you make sure that you've got the tax type activated, you will go under organizations on the top menu, you'll go under tax types, manage tax types on the left, and then you check that the EMP501 is active. Okay, so this is how the page will then look like. So again, as mentioned, you go under organizations at the top, organizations on the left-hand side, tax types, manage tax types, and make sure that the EMP501 submission is successfully activated. Okay, the next thing that you need to check is that you need to check that the rights have been granted correctly and that the EMP501 option has been granted to the user that is making the submission. So how to check the rights? Again, you click under organizations on your top menu. Then on your left-hand side, this time around, you click on rights groups and you click on manage groups. Okay, then you will click on open. So when you click on open, it will display a list of the tax types that you need to select. Okay, so after you've clicked on open, again, you will need to make sure that the EMP501 submission is ticked and that the authorization level is under submission, right? Because there's different authorization levels, which could be view only or just for completion. But in this case, because you are making the submission for the 501 reconciliation, you will need to make sure that the authorization level is ticked under submission. Okay, and then after you've did that, you'll click on update to update the rights to have the submission so that you are able to make the submissions. The other rights that you need to make sure that you have is under manage payers. Okay, so after you've clicked on open and you've saved those rights, you then move on to click on manage payers. After you clicked on manage payers, the grid form will open showing all the taxpayers that you have on your e-filing profile. These are your companies. So under manage payers are all the companies that you have. So for the specific company that you are making a submission for, you will need to make sure that it is ticked in that group so that you are able to make the submission. Okay, and then you will move on to manage users. So under manage users, you will need to click on the user that is making the submission. Make sure that they are ticked under that group to make sure that the user that is making submission is able to authenticate or perform the online verification so that they are able to synchronize e-filing to EasyFile and that the information is sent correctly with SARS, because you will need to use the e-filing information to synchronize your information when you are making the submission. Okay, so that is the e-filing. So just to recap again, just make sure that on your e-filing, your rights are updated correctly, and as well as the EMP501 is activated on your e-filing before you move on to the EasyFile application. And now, moving on to the EasyFile application, how you upload or how you download the EasyFile application to your computer, you will need to download it from the SARS e-filing website. And how to get to the SARS e-filing website, go on www.sarsefiling.co.za, and then you click on the EasyFile employer icon. So there'll be two icons, there'll be the dividend tax, and then there'll be the employer icon. You will need to click on the employer icon because you are downloading the employer application. Okay, so once you click on that icon, this following page will then be displayed. On this page, you've got the option to get your user guides. You also have the option to actually perform the download. So for you to download the option, you click on the download button. That is when you will start the process of downloading the application on your computer. Okay, so if you want the docs, which is where you want your PRS or your EasyFile manuals, you can just click under user docs, click on download. It'll redirect you to the SARS website where you are able to find the specific documents that you want to download. Okay, so after clicking on the download button, a form will then be presented where you will need to complete your employer's details. Okay, so you'll need to complete all the information that is required. And once you have completed all that information, you need to agree to the terms and conditions, and then you click on proceed. Okay, then once you've clicked on proceed, the installation file will download to your computer, and then it'll come in a zip file. So it'll be a setup file that will be zipped. You will double click on that zip file for it to open, and then on that download application, you double click on it, and then it'll start the installation. Okay, so the setup wizard will be presented to start the download process. You will need to click on next. So this is just information letting you know that you are about to install the EasyFile application onto your computer, and also the things that we're letting you know that it is advising you that you need to close all the other applications on your computer before you start on the download process. Then you will click on start. Okay, and then you need to accept the terms and conditions, and then you click on the install button. Okay, if you are not accepting the terms and conditions, you will not be able to install. So the install button will remain grayed out. It'll only be available to you after you've clicked on you accepting the terms and conditions for the licensing agreement that comes with the EasyFile application. Okay, then after you've clicked on install, a Windows will be displayed advising you to back up your database if you are an existing member. So if you are an existing EasyFile member, which means that you already have the application, the system will prompt you to make sure that before you continue, you need to go back and make a backup. Because if you lose any information, or should there be any interruption with the installation while you don't have a backup, or you do not make a backup, you will lose that information. So it is just a prompt message just letting you know that just before you continue with the installation, we noted that you are an existing member. Just please go back to your EasyFile, make a backup, and then you can continue with the installation of the EasyFile application. Because remember, as an application, we do have upgrades onto the application. So if there's a different version that you will need to download, it'll let you know that, okay, fine, you're downloading from a previous version to a newer version. Please make a backup of information so that you do not lose any of your information. Then once you do so, and you are going back to downloading, you will click on OK to continue with the installation of the application. So the installation wizard will detect that the computer does not have the correct version of Zulu Java, right? So the Java runtime that comes with EasyFile will need to be installed with the EasyFile application. So even if your computer has its own Java, EasyFile uses the Zulu GRE Java. So you will need to click on yes to make sure that the Java that works with EasyFile is downloaded onto your computer so that the application can work correctly. Okay, and then a notification will then appear advising you that you're about to install this application, the Zulu Java, and then you just click on next to continue. And then you will move on to downloading the Adobe A. So it'll move on to downloading the Adobe A as well as the Forms Viewer. So EasyFile Forms Viewer will be automatically installed without any prompt. Okay, and then a terms and condition will then appear for the Adobe A, which you will need to agree to so that you are able to continue with the installation. Remember that Adobe A is also to open up the PDF forms that will come with the application. This will be your certificate or the declaration if you want to save it. And then the Forms Viewer is where you are, it's like the form that you have where you will be putting in your information that you will send to SARS for the submission. Okay, so after installing Adobe A, the EasyFile application will be installed. Okay, so once it's installed, you will just click on continue. And then these are certain possible errors in the installation process. Okay, so sometimes if you are trying to install the process, you might get an error message that says that, sorry, an error has occurred. The application cannot be installed due to a certificate problem. Once you receive this, just uninstall Adobe A that is currently on your computer, uninstall EasyFile, and then just run the installation again. There could have been an interruption with the download of the Adobe A of some sort, so then just uninstall the current one and then run the installation again. It will clear up this error message. Then there's also a Forms Viewer issue. So sometimes if you are trying to install Forms Viewer, and then it doesn't download or does not open, you can just go back to your EasyFile, log into your EasyFile, and then run the installation from there. Okay, but if the error persists where you are unable to open the Forms Viewer, then you will need to make sure that you contact your IT so that they can check that Forms Viewer has been added as an exception to your firewall or other security features such as the antivirus that they're using, because sometimes it could be the antivirus that is hindering the Forms Viewer application to be open or to download on your computer. So just contact your IT and advise that it is not installing, then they will be able to add it as an exception, and then you will be able to have the Forms Viewer application installed onto your computer. Okay, so now you have done with the installation. You are now going to log in. So this is for the first time users. After you have successfully installed the EasyFile application, you will need to create login credentials so that you are able to log into the application. So admin in capital letters will be the username assigned for the first user. So even though you will also be required to create 2 other profiles, we always advise that you use the admin, again with capital letters, to log into the application as the username. And then you'll be required to create a password as well as a password hint for each of the usernames that you will create after the admin username has been created. Okay, so after you've created the login credentials, you'll be presented with the login screen. On the login screen, there are the following options. There's the option that allows you to log into the application. There's the option for you to close the application. There is the forgot password button, which will display your password hint. There will also be a secure reminder button, which will display your admin password. After you've entered your e-filing credentials, this is where we are synchronizing using e-filing. Okay, so this is how the page will then look like. As mentioned, that will be the login page, the close page, forgot password for the hint, secure reminder for the actual password to be presented to you. Remember that because this is an offline application, you are not sent any notification to your contact information. Nothing is sent to your email address or your cell phone number. When you click on secure reminder, you'll put in your e-filing credentials to synchronize, and then it'll provide you the exact password that you would have created. Okay, but remember, it'll always be for the admin user. So it'll be admin with capital letters. Okay, so as mentioned, if you click on forgot password, it'll display a hint. For the password, this is the hint that you would have created. By clicking on secure reminder, EasyFile will provide the login details for the online we'll use e-filing credentials for online verification, and then a password will be displayed for the admin user. Okay. So with the SARS system, we've got the business specification document. This is the business, the BRS. We call it the BRS. Otherwise, we also call it the SARS Bible. So anyone that is working on pay-as-you-earn, whether it's the 201 or the 501, will need to make sure that they have this document in hand. Please download the BRS from the SARS website, because the BRS contains SARS rules and specifications related to the EMP501, which EasyFile is also built according to. This is an essential tool which will help you with the completion of the employee, the employer information, and also to resolve any other validation issues when certificates are created or there is a pre-submission validation errors. Because the errors will come in with codes, you will need to use the BRS to search those codes and make sure that you adhere with the BRS, because that is what SARS is expecting from you. So it is very important that anyone working with the EMP501, the reconciliation or 201, has the BRS with them whenever they are about to perform any of the submissions. And on the SARS website, you will get the latest BRS, the updated BRS with every year, because every year there is changes on the BRS. So you'll need to make sure that you familiarize yourself with the SARS website so you always get the latest information. That will also allow you to make adequate submissions. Okay, so once you've logged in, you must also remember that there is the reconciliation process. Okay, so the reconciliation process contains the below. You need to first start by creating an employer. Okay, so it is important that you first create an employer for you to be able to activate the tabs on the screen. Remember, the employer is the company that you are making the submission for. So before you even start, you need to have the company that you are working with so that you can add it on the e-filing application. Once that is done, you move on to processing certificates. Okay, so you've got the option on EasyFile to either create manual RIP5s, or you can import your payroll file, which comes in a CSV file, to the EasyFile application, and then that will allow you to process the certificates. Okay, so you've got two options: creating the certificates manually, or having the certificates imported to your EasyFile application via your payroll file. Okay, so once that you are done, you've got your certificates, you move on to capturing the EMP501. This is now the reconciliation process, the whole point of the application. So once you are capturing the EMP501, you need to accept SARS data. So SARS data needs to be always accepted, because these are all your 201s that you have been submitting the past year. Remember that it's a reconciliation because it is reconciling all the 201s that you have submitted for that financial year to the 501 for you to make a submission. So then once you capture that, or once you accept the SARS data, you will compare the financials between the RP5s that you've been, between the RP5s and the 201s that you've submitted on the declaration. And then once you are correct and you are fine with the comparison, you will then submit the declaration. And then to file this declaration, e-filing details will be required for verification. Remember, as mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, you will need to make sure that your e-filing is set up correctly for you to be able to perform the verification on EasyFile. And then it will validate the EMP501 and then the certificates. And once that is done, you are done with the reconciliation. You can then generate the certificates, which are the RIP5s that you will provide to the employees. Okay, so remember again, with certificates are only available on the final reconciliation, which is the current one that we are on, and it is not available on the biannuals because the reconciliation is split into two. There's the biannuals that you do in the middle of the year. Then there's also the full recon where you do at the end of the financial year. So you can only get the RP5 certificates that you provide to your employees on the final recon. Okay, so now we'll then move on to creating your employer records on EasyFarm. Okay, so when we move on to creating your employer on EasyFarm, so this is how when you do it manually, right? So when you are creating your employer manually on EasyFarm, you will need to click on under employer admin on the left-hand side. There is view, edit, or change employer. You'll need to click on that. And then once you click on that, you click on add employer. So when you click on add employer, you will put in all your employer information, the trading names, the reference numbers, which is the pay to earn, SDL and UIF if they have, all the employer information, the business address, demographic information, and so forth. You'll put in all of that information and you'll click on update to make sure that that employer has been captured on your EasyFile application. Remember, this is the employer that you are going to be submitting a recon for. And then after the employer has been created, you will move on to creating your employees. Okay, so this is where you do not have a payroll file and you're creating your employees manually. You will click on under employee admin on the left-hand side. You will click on view edit employees. Then after you clicked on that, you click on add employee. Okay, on the left-hand menu, so you will click on add employee to add that specific employee. After clicking on add employee, a blank form will be presented to you where you will need to complete it with the employee's details. And then you click on save at the end of the last form to save those employees' details that you have added on. So this will be the employee information, ID number, demographic information, their contact information, as well as their banking details. You will add on that and then you will click on save. Okay, so to have that employee added to the database. So after you've added the employee, EasyFile has the option of creating income tax reference numbers or rather providing income tax reference numbers for specific employees. If the employee that you are working on does not have an income tax reference number or you do not have the income tax reference number of that specific employee, on EasyFile, you are able to do so. So after you've added the employee's information, you can just simply click on IT Reg. Then when you click on IT Reg, you will then again use your e-filing credentials to verify so that you can have the income tax number automatically populated for the specific employee under the income tax container fields for the details. Okay, so this is for the employees that do not have tax reference numbers or you do not know the tax reference number for that employee. EasyFile has that option that will allow you to get that income tax reference number so that you are able to make a submission for that specific employee. Okay, so after you've created the employee, you will then move on to creating a certificate for that employee, right? So after you've created the employee and saved the information, the Add Certificate tab on the bottom right page will be active for you to allow to create a new certificate for that specific employee. You will click on Add Certificate. And then after you clicked on Add Certificate, a blank certificate will be presented to you for you to complete. Okay, you will click on Manage Codes. Manage Codes, after you've put in the information of the certificate, such as the transaction year, the period of reconciliation, the certificate type. Then once you put in all of that mandatory information, you click on Manage Codes for you to add in the specific source codes that are required for that specific employee certificate. Okay. And then when you are creating the certificate manually, you will need to also, as mentioned, make sure that the certificate complies with the BRS in order for it to be saved successfully. If it is not in alignment with the BRS, an error will be displayed when you try to save the certificate, which will detail the reasons why the certificate cannot be saved due to the specific source codes. And then after the certificate is saved, it will be listed along with other certificates that have been created for that specific employee on that database. Okay, so there is color coordinations for the certificates. If a certificate is saved successfully, the status of the certificate will of course be green to show that everything is correct with that certificate. If the certificate is saved or if it's not saved or it's incomplete, the status will show as incomplete and it will be in yellow. And if a certificate is cancelled, meaning that you have cancelled that certificate, the color coordination of that certificate will show red. And then if a certificate has been submitted instead of saved, submitted successfully to SARS, it will show as submitted, and the status will show as black. So those are the different colors that come with the certificates. So remember, as mentioned, that if you are creating a certificate manually and then it is not adhering to the BRS, this is how the reasons will then show you, right? So it will show you using the codes that the reason for code 4150 must be used if the certificate type is source code 33015. You will then go back to your BRS, search for those codes, read up on those codes, and then you will then amend that certificate according to what SARS is expecting based on the BRS. Okay. So just again to reiterate, the color coordination of the certificates and how it will also look like with the color codes. Again, if a certificate is incomplete, the status will be written in yellow, showing that the certificate is incomplete. If the status is in green, it'll show you that the certificate adheres to the BRS and it will be included in the declaration for submission, and that the figures will also be included in the reconciliation. The certificates will be created with the green status. And then the status will be written in red if it's cancelled, which will indicate that the certificate has been cancelled. When the declaration is resubmitted after the certificate is cancelled, an EMP501, which is a certificate cancellation, will be processed on the system, cancelling the certificate that is on the SARS system. Okay, so that is the process of creating the certificates manually as well as the employees manually. EasyFile also has an option for the employers that are using their payroll files. Okay, so if you are using a payroll file, you are able to import that payroll file into your EasyFile application. Under the employee records and certificates can be created automatically when you import a CSV file from your payroll application, meaning that you do not do any of the employer or employee information manually. It will be done automatically when you import. So how you import, you click on import, and then on the left-hand side, and then you also click on import or export payroll file, and then you click on import payroll file. Okay, so when you click on import payroll file, it will search for the import file that is saved on your computer for it to be imported onto the application. Okay, then if a CSV file payroll has been imported successfully, a message will be presented informing you of a successful import. Okay, then the employer and the employee records and the certificates will then be created automatically. So this is how the message will then show you that it is imported successfully. Import file is imported successfully. You can then move on to complete the employer contact information should you need to make any amendments, or you can view your employees so that you can confirm that everything has been imported correctly. Okay, and then if a CSV file does not adhere to the BRS, the import file will fail validation. Okay, then a message will be presented informing you of a failed import file, and you'll be advised to view the details of the failed import file and to see the reasons why the import file has failed the validation. So you will receive a message again that says that that import file failed validation with warnings. You are able to move on to view how you can see the reasons on how and what happened with the payroll file. So how to retrieve the failed payroll file report? You go to utilities on your left-hand side. Then under utilities, there's the utilities option. You click on utilities, and then the grid option will show where you'll click on import payroll file log. So under import payroll file log, you will see that there will be a status on your import file that you have just imported with the failed status. You will double click on that import failed status so that you can see the reasons for the payroll file. So after you've double clicked on the failed import payroll file attempt, a report will be presented detailing the reasons for the CSV file payroll file that you have submitted. And then because the payroll file has failed validation and it does not adhere to the BRS, the user is able to save the report and have the report saved on their computer and use that report to have the information fixed on their payroll system. They can also rather liaison with their payroll file administrators that send them that payroll file, that this is the reasons that caused the payroll file to fail, and then that payroll file administrator can update the information. And then once they've got that information updated, they can come back to EasyFile again, import the payroll file again with the corrected information so that they're able to continue with the submission. Also, the payroll file systems or the payroll file administrators will need to always make sure that they are also adhering with the PRS because, as mentioned, the PRS is the SARS Bible. Okay, so now we'll then move on to submitting the declaration. Okay, we'll move on to submitting the declaration. Now, before you submit the declaration, again, just to recap, just to confirm, what you first need to do is make sure that you have installed the EasyFile application correctly. Everything has been installed fine. Once that is done, you move on to adding your employer. Once you've added the employer, you move on to adding your employees. Then after you've added your employees, you create the certificates for those employees. Then once that is done, you can move on to submitting the declaration. If you are using a payroll file, you just simply import the payroll file in your EasyFile application. Once that has been successfully imported, just to double check, go back to your employer information, double check that what you have imported is what you are expecting, check that the employer information is correct, move on again to double check with the few employees that you are expecting to be on that payroll file have been imported correctly, check that the information is correct, check that they also have their certificates in a created status because you can only submit a declaration of certificates that are in a created status. Then once that is done, you move on to submitting your declaration. So after the certificates have been created or imported successfully and are in a created status, as mentioned, you'll be able to start the process of submitting this declaration by clicking on declaration on the left-hand side, and then you select the submission period that you want to submit for, and then you click on request. Okay. You will then be presented with the option to accept SARS data, use own values, or reinstate ETI. As mentioned, it is very important or imperative that you accept SARS data because you are accepting all that you have been submitting throughout the financial year for it to reflect on your declaration instead of submitting your own data because you could be using incorrect information that is not as to what SARS has on their system. So you need to click on accept SARS data, and then once that, you will then use your e-filing credentials for verification. When you use your e-filing information, this is when you are synchronizing information from SARS onto your EasyFile application. You use your e-filing credentials. You put those credentials and you click on log in. And then after you've entered your e-filing credentials, the EMP501 form will be displayed with the 201 figures that you have been submitting to SARS for that specific tax year. Okay, so after you click on that, for the figures will open on a forms view application. So it'll seem as if it's a separate application, but it is just the forms viewer that displays the form that you will use for making that submission. Okay, so after you've checked and compared the figures in the 501, you will need to click on the file and file and close menu in the top left page. This is where you have compared everything. Everything is in a blue status. Remember, if there's any information that SARS is requiring, or if the form is requiring your attention, it will have a red line on it showing you that this section needs your attention, whether it's under the employer information or it's under the tax practitioner details if there's tax practitioners, or under the financial particulars. If there's anything that needs your attention, that form will not reflect as blue, it'll show as red. That will need your attention. But if everything shows as blue, you are fine with the financials that are on the form. For you to make the submission, you click on file and then file and close on the left-hand menu. Then after you click on that in the declaration, you'll be routed back to the EasyFile application. Remember, the form will open onto the Forms Viewer application. But after you click on file and close, it will reroute you back to the EasyFile Employer application, where you will be required to click under Submit to SARS. You will need to click on that Submission tab. So under Submit to SARS on the left-hand side, you will take the submission and click on the Submit button. Again, you will be required to enter your e-filing credentials to submit this recon to SARS. As mentioned, e-filing credentials are used to synchronize information from the application to SARS or from SARS. On the form, when you use your e-filing credentials, you are receiving all your 201s from SARS to your application. But But now when you are submitting a declaration to SARS, you are using your e-filing credential to synchronize information from the application to SARS, for SARS to receive. Okay, so after you've submitted the reconciliation to SARS, you will need to view the status of your submission. And then to view the status of the submission, on the left-hand side under Utilities, you click on Utilities, and this time around, you click on the EMP501 status dashboard. Okay, so you will locate your submission. Of course, you'll locate your submission using the date and time of the submission that you've made. Then after you click on that, you will click on Update. Okay, so when you click on Update, a message will pop up saying that the updates have been received. You will need to click on OK to view the status of your submission. Okay, so the status of the submission will then be provided to you like in so it'll let you know that the recon has been successfully submitted to SARS, but the wording that you require the most is that declaration has been processed and has been successfully submitted. This way you know that the information has been received to SARS and that recon has been successfully processed. Okay, so again, you are also able to retrieve your ETV report. Okay, so for you to retrieve your submission status under Utilities on the EMP501 status dashboard, if there is an ETV report for a rejected status, you are able to do so. So you need to click on Update. After you click on Update, it will of course let you know that the recon has been accepted or rejected. Okay, but if there is an ETV report after it's been processed, you will receive notification that there is an ETV report that is sent to you for you to view so that you are able to fix the declaration so that it is accepted by SARS. And how to get that ETV report, again, remember you need to start by clicking on Update to see the status. Then after you've seen the status, you will need to put in your e-filing credentials again for you to authenticate. And then the view button under the ETV section will then be provided to you on the left-hand side. So you will click on the view button on the right column to view the ETV report for the EMP501 submission. Okay, so this is when you have been requested by SARS to view the ETV report so that you are able to make amendments to that specific submission so that it is accepted. Okay, so the details of the ETV report will then show, so the details of the certificate will show, and then you will need to be able to see where the certificate has failed. Remember, you also have the option to save this report. Save the report. If you want it to make a little bit more sense, just try and open it in an Excel form, where in an Excel form, it will actually let you know exactly where the ETV report or what has caused the failure of the submission, and then you will go back and fix that specific message or that specific point where that caused the declaration to fail, and then you'll be able to make a submission again with the correct information so that that declaration is received at SARS. But if you are also able to read the report as it is, you can do so as you should, and then you are able to make the specific amendments on that recon, and then it'll be accepted at SARS. Okay, so if you've got a successful submission and everything is good to go, on EasyFile also you are able to receive information in real time to compare what SARS has on the system. So you no longer have to, after making a submission, try contact SARS, and when you're contacting SARS, just trying to find out, is everything correct? A certificate's the actual number that I'm looking for, and so forth. You are able to receive this type of information on your EasyFile application. So under reconciliation, you click on the Pay As You Earn dashboard. Okay, under the Pay As You Earn dashboard, you will click on, you'll first select the company that you're working on, and then you will select the period, and then you will click on Show. When you click on Show, a following grid like this will show you what your submission looks like at SARS. So this is information that is coming directly from SARS. It shows you all your payments and your payment allocation. It shows you the certificate values. It shows you the number of certificates that that you have submitted or SARS has received. Also showing you the payment allocations and the liabilities. So you can use this grid to confirm that, okay, what I have submitted is exactly as what SARS has received, because this information is information that is reflecting on the SARS website. So if the number of certificates is not 148 and it's actually supposed to be 150, then you can see that, you know, there are 2 certificates that are outstanding, or if there is more certificates, you know that there's duplications. So you can use this grid to kind of give you an overall view of your submission. And then again, remember, if anything is in a red form, meaning that on the green dots that are here, if there is a red dot, it shows you that there is an issue with regards to that specific field. It could be your payments, it could be your certificates and the value of certificates. It could be anything of that sort. So it'll be up to you as to what you take from this grid for you to make any amendments, should you make amendments. But if everything is in green, then you know that you are good to go. You are fine with the reconciliation that you have submitted to SARS, and you know that the certificates that SARS has received are the certificates that you also have submitted to SARS, and everything is in par. Okay, so now we'll move on to the frequently asked questions that we receive that I still have under the presentation. So the most frequently asked questions that we receive pertaining EasyFile could be this area here, when you are trying to open up a notification or you are trying to generate certificates, where you receive an error message that says that the PDF cannot be displayed. Error code is that the version is too old, and then it just shows a blank screen. So how you remedy this is that you just go under utilities. So under utilities, you go under system configuration and make sure that render PDF with default application is ticked. This is because previously EasyFile used to work on a specific version of Adobe. So you had to download a specific version of Adobe, but with the enhancements that came with EasyFile, we now have the option to use any Adobe that you have on your computer, not Adobe Air. Remember, Adobe Air and Adobe, 2 different applications. So the Adobe that you have to open up the PDF version does not have to be a specific one. It can be the one that you have on your computer, just as long as you click on render PDF with default application. And then on the same screen, I'm just going to add on the same screen, if you have an issue trying to open up Forms Viewer, for instance, that you're clicking on your declaration and it is just a blank screen. How you can remedy it, just come under Utilities, and then under Utilities, you'll click on Install, next to the EasyFile Forms Viewer application. When you click on Install, it'll it'll install the Forms Viewer application for you that will allow you to open up your declaration. Okay, so as mentioned on the same screen, click on Install. It will reinstall the Forms Viewer application that will allow you to open up your declaration. Okay, we also have the ETI reinstatement issue, right? So some clients will think that just because they have not submitted the ETI under the 201s, they are able to reinstate it on the EasyFile application, where if an employer incorrectly submits an incorrect EMP501, which is either future dated or without claiming ETI, they will be able to request reinstatement of ETI without having to go through the process of the debt management or manual intervention. Okay, so this new option was added on the declaration page when you click on request. It will in real time request that the return to be pre-populated as per the values originally submitted where ETI was instated. I'm just going to reinstate that this is when you did not include ETI on your 501, but not on your 201s. If the ETI was not included on your 201s, you will not be able to reinstate it on your 501s. It is only the ETI that was submitted during the 201 processes. Okay, and then remember that all standard checks will be performed, which is your compliance or any other assessments that are raised, and this request may be declined, depending on what SARS has received from their side, because it will go through the standard checks, and then a pop-up will then provide you if a reason for the reinstatement request was unsuccessful. Okay, another question that we always have again is for the pre-validation submission report. So you have made your submission and then it lets you know that there's a pre-validation report that has been sent to you. You open the report and you see that there are codes or there's things that are mandatory. Remember, I mentioned that the BRS is the SARS Bible. So you just open up the BRS. So this is a BRS document that has been opened. You control find and then you put in the source code or a code that has been put in from the validation report, and then it will let you know that you will need to use a source code, or you need to use a postal code, or whatever reason that is required from the BRS. That information will be provided to you for you to make mandatory amendments so that you are able to pass the validation, which will then enable you to make the submission for your declaration. Okay, so this comes to the end of my presentation. We've got our support email address should you have any information that you will need, or if you've got any queries. Remember, we are the technical support and navigation team. So you will need to provide us with a clear explanation of what your issue is or what you require, with screenshots as to where you are getting stuck or where you are receiving the error message, so that we are able to help you with your query. Our email address, as stated here, is support@sarsefiling.co.za. Thank you very much, Pamela. I hope that was fruitful and not too much overload of information.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was just the right amount. And I think that because it's recorded, people will get a chance to watch this over and over again until they get the proper feel of it. But I also want to rest assured the people that are here is that we will have a second session that will be identical to this, just so to sort of refresh your memory. If there's anything that maybe you didn't understand at this session, there will be a secondary session. So please try and get as much information here so that you can, you know what they say, practice makes perfect. The more you watch these recordings, the better it will be for you. And again, this is for your benefit, so please make the most of it. So I think we've reached the time for the Q&A. Are you guys ready? So again, I just want to stress this. Can the questions please be with regards to this session, right? Or else, because there's so many taxes. And again, we will have other sessions and other discussions on other different types of taxes like VAT, employee taxes, etc. But for this session, can the questions please be around the EMP501 and the presentation that was just done? So if you've got a question, please raise your hand. Yes, Masavata, please unmute and ask your questions.
Hi, Pamela. How are you?
Great, thanks. And how are you?
Thank you so much for a great session.
Awesome.
I just started to register my employees, and I need to pay for them as today or tomorrow. But with me, I went to my bank app, and then I went to what do they call it? Public recipient. And then I wrote SARS, and then I chose PSUN, and I chose UIF and stuff, so that when I pay, I'm just going to pay in. So I wanted to understand if must I first maybe download the easy file, and once I download the easy file, do I pay on the easy file or do I pay on the app of my bank? I am a bit confused because I've never done this before, and really this is something that I need to do, but I want to do it accordingly so that SARS managed to get the feedback of my payments. Can you please just elaborate on that? Thank you.
Thank you, Masavata. Nokutula and team, please respond. Thanks.
Okay. Masavata, just to confirm, are you paying the 201s or have you done the reconciliation process? Because it could be in both ways. So if you are doing their monthly, which is the 201s, you should be using e-filing, right, to make the submissions. So when you are doing so on e-filing, you are able to you add your banking information on e-filing and then make a payment from your e-filing account.
Actually, my accountant has been assisting me, And as much as my company is making money, but I don't make profit because of a lot of costs, I have realized that I need to attend these kind of sessions. I need to learn. If I can do something as an employer, so be it. At least I will just let my accountant to do what the accountants are supposed to do. So she's the one who registered the UIF and the PSUN and the SDL. So now she just went through it and she said she sent me email for me to pay. So, but I was always going to talk to her as well. But this information was very crucial for me to understand. And maybe I will also go through the recordings again and again until I understand as to how to do it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sabata. So yeah, as mentioned, the presentation was for the 501. So once you made the submission, of course, you're going to receive a notification from SARS if there's any outstanding balances that you need to pay, and there'll be a reference number that is on that correspondence. So if you are making an external payment, we'll call it external payment because it's not on the applications, either e-filing or EasyFile, you can make the payment doing so when that process that they're providing you, that is fine. But if you are making a payment using e-filing, because you would have made those submissions via e-filing, you can add your banking information on e-filing and then make a payment directly through that system.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
Okay, just to also add on that. Okay, so the accountant can register your company and the EMP501 on e-filing under his profile, and then set up your banking details, because SARS also offers a secure way of doing payments, meaning that on e-filing, the accountant can set up your banking details and send the payment instruction through to your bank. The only thing that you need to do is to go in onto your bank and do the release of that payment without you being on e-filing, because they're already doing the work. It's a secure way of also doing your monthly EMP501 payments. And then so that when you do the reconciliation later on, the two can tie up according to how you've been paying for the declared liability.
All right. Thank you so much for that information. I will request her to add my banking details so that it can be easy for me to make payments. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Masabata. Okay, we've got a question for Mo Ashi. Please unmute and just ask your question.
Hi guys, thank you for this. I have a question. I wrote it down, but I can just if I can go to it quickly. So I have a client who I do payroll for clients. So I have a client who is they want me to submit their EMP501, but I started doing their payroll in the last 6 months of the year, which is August. And then the first 6 months was done by another company. So on payroll, I have the information for the last 6 months. So then I was talking to one of you guys online on the support team, and how should I submit? And then they said that I should find information for the data for the first 6 months, which the client sent me the figures for the first 6 months. Now, what is the best way to submit this? Because it's easier for me to just upload a payroll file to EasyFile, but now there's this manual work for the first 6 months, if you get what I'm saying.
Yes, we do hear what you're saying. So the first part is you can start by importing, the first 6 months of your payroll, of your CSV file. Because you've already imported the file, then you can add another manual certificate for those employees so that they will have two, because then the payroll is not catering for the whole year. So you will have two certificates for each employee where it divides the first 6 months and the second 6 months, so that your recon on your declaration can balance out all together. So you have two RP5s for those employees for the first 6 months and the last 6 months. So the first one will be an electronic certificate, and then the second one will be a manual one that you will add if the previous entity didn't give you the payroll file for the first 6 months, so that you can have the two files together imported on your reconciliation.
Oh, okay. And should I do this yes?
Oh, sorry, Maki. I'm showing this page here because you see when you are, after you download, there's the option where it says that you'll be able to edit CSV file that has been imported. So after you've created after you've imported the first 6 months, on the very same year, you can just go and manually add other employees and those certificates for those employees on the system, where it'll be, as Yolanda saying, the first 6 months will be electronic, then the other employees will be manually captured.
Okay. All right, cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Are there any other questions? If you just raise your hand. Guys, this is an opportunity for you to get clarity on this tax return. If there's something you don't understand, this is the time to ask. So any questions? Going once, going twice. Okay. All right, cool. So I'm just gonna ask some of the questions that have previously been asked to the team, SARS team. So a question was, are there any penalties for first-time SMEs that are still not submitting these returns because they are not making money? I asked this because, the SME probably asked this because there's this assumption that because a company is not making sales, then they shouldn't be submitting these returns. Is this true? Nongutalo, that was for you or Yolanda? So an SME has sent a question saying that if are there any penalties if they basically are not making money and therefore are not submitting these returns?
Okay, thank you for the question, Pamela. So the system will levy the penalties, based on if the employer has registered either for a tax types, so it's on the SARS discretion to levy the penalty based on what they see. But if it's an employer where it's a zero declaration, then they can always do a dispute to the penalty that is imposed and then state their reasons as to why they're not able to be liable for the declaration for the penalties that has been imposed.
So true, so true. Thank you for that. All right, if there's any question, just raise your hand. Otherwise, I'm just gonna go through a list of questions that have previously been asked. The other question was, how many employees can be put onto the easy file? So I think they just want clarity on that. How many employees?
Okay, so we've got on easy file, there's no limitation in terms of how many employees can be done for the reconciliation. So we only have a limitation if the employer is doing a reconciliation on e-filing. So it's 1 up to 50 if you're doing a reconciliation on e-filing. But on easy file, we do not have any limitation in terms of how many employees can be added on the reconciliation. It can be 1 to unlimited on easy file.
Perfect, perfect. Okay, great. We've got a question from Sponiso. Sponiso, please unmute. We'll come to you, Bernard, just after Sponiso.
Hi, Pamela. Thanks.
Hello.
I just want to make a follow-up question on your question about the penalties. What to do if already you have penalties that has been posed to you by SARS, but still you're not making any money? What to do, which way to go, how to do the waiving, if maybe you have to do the waiving. Thank you.
With every penalty that SARS can impose, you have, as an employer, an option to do a dispute or a request for remission. So firstly, you have to remedy by the situation by submitting the outstanding returns, which is why SARS would have levied that penalty. And then the second option, then once you've submitted all outstanding returns, is to request for SARS for a remission, where it's the only process where you need to follow to dispute the penalty imposed by SARS. And then it's at the SARS discretion as to your grounds that are declared on your request for remission that it will be looked into, because each and every situation is different, and for them to accept your remission and waiver the penalties imposed. Hope that answers your questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, Bernard, you've got a question. Go ahead.
Hi, Pamela.
Hello.
I just want to ask you, let's say you have a company, it's still small, under construction, where you do your part-time projects, like your 2 months, 3 months. Sometimes you can go for 3 months without any job. Is it still necessary to do the 501s, or it's only for those who are, let's say, those who have a permanent contract? Thank you.
Let me just say, if you have registered for EMP501, even if it's for that particular contract where for that period you needed to register for the EMP501 so that you can reconcile for that particular contract. So you do not have to deregister the pay-as-you-earn for future purposes as well. The reconciliation is done twice. You do the first 6 months and you also do the financial year end, which is this one that we're reconciling for. So for that period, for the 2 months where you had the contract, remember when you're doing the interim, you're gonna cater for that period within a particular tax period where you do the reconciliation for the 2 months to cater for your books as well. And then you still keep the EMP501 active on the system, where you still submit zeros if you don't have any employees for that particular period. And then you reconcile for that particular 2 months on your reconciliation, so that your information can tie up that you did have employees for a particular 2 months period. And you keep your pay-as-you-earn active by submitting nil return or submitting the nil EMP501, to get your pay-as-you-earn going, if you know that in future you're gonna get future projects where you will need to use it as well.
Okay, thank you so much. I hope that has answered your question, right? Okay, then we've got Tandy. Hi, Tandy, please unmute.
Good morning, everyone. Mine is regarding making arrangement for payment of penalties. If I have made an arrangement with SARS, and it happens that on the arrangement, one of the months that I've arranged with, I pay late, and they cancel my arrangements. And when I go online, it's rejecting me to make an arrangement again. There's just a delay. I think I delayed with 3 days. And it's when I request for a call, they told me that I cannot make an arrangement again online. I need to walk in. And I did walk into SARS, and they told me that I need to make an appointment, and the only available time is like in July. I just wanted to find out if there is any other way that I can get back to that arrangement that was initially done. I know I'm supposed to finish up in the next 2 months to finish the penalty payment, but now that arrangement has been cancelled due to a delayed payment according to what we agreed initially.
Hi, Tandy. In that case, I think what we can do, maybe I can take your phone number, because it's something that we need to engage the debt department. So if you have defaulted your arrangement automatically when you try to apply another one, it doesn't allow you. So we need, since you are saying the appointment is in July, therefore we need to do something. I think you can also write a letter so that I can forward to the that department.
Oh, thank you, OCBC. Can I get your email address maybe on the chats, and then I'll just forward you all of that you
Okay.
just requested now. Thank you. Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Tandi, for that question. All right, Moahi, you can unmute.
Okay, thank you. I have another question regarding employees who don't have tax numbers. So I would submit EMP501 because maybe they're not registered or they don't know the tax numbers or I don't have it at that time. But by the time I come filing time, and then they come back and say, SARS says they want tax numbers on our RP5s. So now maybe they registered or they phoned SARS and they got their tax numbers. So in my case, on payroll, I do a resubmission, but do I now need to generate a new RP5 numbers? And then now, does it mean I'll have to resubmit every time an employee says, oh, I have a tax number? Because that would be like a lot of resubmissions. I'm not sure how to go about that.
Okay. On the presentation that Tuli covered, she talked about a feature that SARS has added, which is called employment tax validations. With the employment tax validations, it means that the data that you submit as the employer has to be accurate according to the taxpayer. So it doesn't only check whether the information declared, like the pay-as-you-earn, STL, and UIF, does not balance according to the income. It also checks the data that the integrity that the employer has captured. So because the tax number has been mandatory from 2010, SARS allows you to submit the interim submission without a tax number to get you prepared when you're doing the submission now at the end of May, so that all the employers have tax numbers for all the employees. So if you have a particular employee that does not have a tax number, on the easy file under the certificate, that there was an option under the demographics where you could register a single registration number, which is a tax number for the employee. It does happen that SARS will give you, that particular tax number for the specific employee if it's not pre-populated on the field for the tax number. But if it doesn't, on the SARS website, we've got online query system where you can also ask your employee to check, put in the information to be able to get the access to their tax number if they are already registered and you didn't get the tax number for them, so that your submission for the recon doesn't fail our ETV value, because then if you put in a wrong tax number or you put in 0, the system will reject your submission, because then it's seeing your integrity of your data not being according to the way it's supposed to, where it's supposed, each and every employee is supposed to have a tax number that's correctly for them. So you can check that where you do a single registration, it's possible to get a tax number for the employee, or you can use the SARS website to be able to recover the tax number for your specific employee, so that your reconciliation doesn't fail. Okay, so once you do the resubmission, Tuli also talked about the 2 options on the certificate where you can select the voluntary over deduction button, so that if you have corrected the information and you do a resubmission, you can tick that button to allow your submission to be processed by SARS without failure this time. Hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you, Yolanda.
If I may, because while you were speaking, Yolande, I just quickly went on SARS. If I can just show everybody what you were saying, where they can use, how they can use the SARS to access the tax numbers. So you literally just go to sars.gov.za. Then you see here where it says, what's my tax number? Then if you click there, just want to be sure. Yeah, then you just this is what Yolanda was talking about. You just complete this information and then you should then be able to get the tax number. This is correct, Yolanda?
Yes, that is definitely correct. Thank you,
Cool.
Camilla.
All right. All right.
Is there a bulk for this?
Yes.
Sorry for, is there a bulk where I can upload bulk employees, for example, instead of one? Because at that time I'll be having, let's say, 20 employees without tax numbers, and I cannot go on this and upload each individually. It can take a long time.
No, that one, Muahi, it can be used by only the employee, not the employer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So on the employer side, if they want to do a bulk IT registration for multiple employees. So under the same screen, for instance, if they are on the screen, they've just created employees, and then they know that there's a specific number of employees that don't have income tax reference numbers, they can click on bundled IT reg, and then it'll give them an option to select the specific employees that they want to do a bulk for, and then they click on submit. And then that takes about 24 to 48 hours, and then they should receive correspondence with the list of those employees' income tax reference numbers. And if there are specific employees that, for instance, have to contact the branch for whatever reasons when it pertains to their income tax reference numbers, then it will let you know that the specific person needs to go to the branch, and then they will need to update their own information. So this is the employer side when you are creating for bulk. And then using the SARS system, yeah, that SARS system must be done specifically by the employee themselves, because the information that is captured there needs to be the information of the employee. So you can't request an income tax reference number for your employee using the SARS website, and then you put in your own email address. It will not be sent through. But if you're an employee, an employer wanting to do a bulk registry or a bulk request, you can select bundle IT reg, select the employees, and then a notification will be sent to you with those specific employees.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, I see you've got a hand raised by Katie. Pronouncing your name, please unmute.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. I wanted to find out, I have employees, but they are below the income tax threshold. We've been doing the UIF declarations. Do I have to do the EMP501?
Okay, yes. So if the employee is under the threshold, we have two types of the certificate that can be created through either e-filing or easy-file. We've got an IRP5, which is the one with the pay-as-you-earn. And for the employees that are below the threshold, it's called an IT3A. So you'll select that when you're adding a certificate for those employees that are under the threshold. There's an option where it gives you a code where you can select, it's 4150, where you can select that code, and once you select that code for that particular certificate for the IT3A, you select that employee is below the threshold, and it will allow you to save that certificate based on the income declared to show that that specific employee only qualifies for the UIF based on the income that they've earned, and they are under the threshold.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, hey? All right, Masabata, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Pamela. Actually, Kathy, asked the question that I really wanted to ask because I was a bit skeptical in terms of my own employees without their employee numbers. Anyway, my other question is that once you have made an arrangement with SARS because you have an outstanding amount that you need to pay with them of 2023, and then the 2024 you are behind because you are paying the previous outstanding amount. Is it possible to make another arrangement? Because it's difficult to pay both the previous and the present amount of monies. And at the end of the day, you're looking at, you must make sure that your employees has got salaries, you've got also money to for materials and stuff. Because once you concentrate only on paying SARS, both monies previous and present, you won't be able to sustain the business. You won't be able to continue with the business. So I wanted to know if is it possible to make another arrangement, because already the previous one you're paying a lot of money monthly, and it is not because of the employer's fault for the company to be in this mess, is because of the accountants that are always not reliable, accountants that we think they are doing their job whereas they are not, the accountants that are taking away our e-filing profile and owning them to the level that as an employer or as a director of the business, I don't even have access to my own account. I have struggled for a long time to get my profile back to me. I did up and downs for a longer period. So the question is it possible to make another arrangement while having an arrangement already with SARS? Thank you.
Okay, I think in that case, I will answer according to my knowledge, to what I know. If you have a payment arrangement for the previous period and then you haven't completed in terms of paying, therefore, if let's say it happened that you want a tax certificate, then or a tax clearance status, therefore you can book an appointment, go to the branch so that you can apply a payment arrangement for the new one. But if it's a matter of you want to just make a payment arrangement in the matter of complying, therefore you can finish the other payment arrangement of which it was the previous year, and then once you are done, then you can apply for a new payment arrangement for the 2024.
Can I also add on what she asked?
Yes.
Yes, I think like sometimes like with her situation, like particularly with all the factors that she has brought with regards to maybe not being able to pay the employees because obviously of the previous payment arrangement like that she cannot meet, and the current one. Like obviously like with all the other obligations, like maybe like let's just assume maybe she still has to pay like the accountant, which like maybe could not process some of the assessments. I think like she can like still approach maybe SARS and like maybe request for like a compromise, like in terms of her tax debt, which is currently like outstanding. Then like normally they do like consider like if maybe like you are going through such maybe difficulties like in terms of your business. But obviously like especially like with her situation, if maybe you have made a payment arrangement, there is a particular SARS official that they allocate to you who will send maybe a payment arrangement agreement or something like that, so that like it is effective. So I would suggest maybe that she contacts particularly that SARS official who was assigned to her. Then like they will be able to maybe help her with like applying for a compromise, maybe to waive or to pay a certain portion of the amount that is still outstanding?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. The thing is, I'll respond to the First Lady of SARS. They did assign me someone whom I'm working with, but the very same person told me that the arrangement was for last year. So for this year, you need to pay up. If you don't, you are going to be you're not going to be compliant. And now you can imagine where I'm sitting. SARS offices are 250 km away from where I'm staying. I am in the rural area where we don't have SARS in our town. For me, I even requested him to make an arrangement with me that when I go to SARS, I need to be able to get assistance, because the last time I went to SARS, I didn't get assistance. So, and then he didn't respond, but I'm still in talks with him, because I don't know if it's possible for me to make that arrangement, even if I didn't go personally to SARS, because I already have someone assigned to me. Thanks for your advices. This is really a difficult situation for us as employees, for us as directors of businesses, because I don't think I'm the only one in this mess of SARS. But SARS, when you owe them, they will rip you off. But when they owe us, they relax. But anyway, thank you for the advices, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Masawata. Thank you for your questions. All right, just to allow other people an opportunity to also to speak, we'll move on to Henriette. Please go ahead and ask your question.
I don't even know if it's a question or is it a problem. I have been through, I think, 3 or 4 tax practitioners in the last 3 or 4 years. One of them made me do an arrangement with SARS. I was not even aware of the debt or what am I making an arrangement with, because at that time I wanted a tax clearance and I was told if you don't make arrangement, you will not be compliant. So I made an arrangement of 20,000 rand. And then during the year 2022, I relapsed, couldn't pay, and obviously, and I when they call me and tell me that we're gonna take the money from your bank account, I would just say, just take them, because there's nothing in the bank account. I'm not compliant. So, but nevertheless, the point I'm trying to get in, when I appointed a person last year, asked a person to help me, that person realized that the very same arrangement that I'm in, there was a claim through another practitioner that helped me of 69 employees. These 69 employees, I've never had even 5 employees in my business. So there's IRP5s that I'll send a copy of that. So I wrote a letter, I went to SARS and I told them, I can't be paying for people that have never been employed in my business. Why can't they investigate this and whatever? And they said to me that, should we put you under audit? Or I was like, yes. They said to me, do you understand the repercussion of this? I was like, yes, I do, because I do not know those people and whatever. So apparently my audit doesn't have a end date. I don't know when is it going to finish. So I just need to understand, how does this audit work? Why doesn't it have an end date? And why should I be paying for people that were never employed by me? And is there no record in the process that was done that SARS can see that this this is just too good to be true? No employees for the last 10 years and 69 employees in 1 year. I don't know. It's just worrisome and I cannot get it right. Pamela, are you guys still there?
Yes, we're still here. Sorry. Nokutula, you may please just share your thoughts on what Henrietta's struggle is.
I'm
I'm going to ask Ms. Busi or Ruben to assist, because remember, from our side, we are more technical and navigational consultants. So this sounds to be more of an internal issue.
Sure.
I will hand it over to Mr. Masombok. He will answer that question. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bosi. Thank you, Henrietta, for the input. Yeah, my advice to you, obviously, there were transactions that were entered in using your profile, and those transactions could have been fraudulent transaction. So it's not only about probably the amount that you are now currently owing on your pay as you earn, for example. It could also be fraudulent refunds that could have been claimed by employees that were not even employees to start with. So you probably have some information in terms of who might have used your profile. I think in your input, you mentioned that it could have been your previous accountant. So we would appeal that you liaise with the auditor that is currently handling your case, and try to give us more information around that situation, and also make some affidavit in terms of where what your concerns are, that so and so has never been my employee, because we do not know exactly what happens within your space. One might have a project which is 1 month, which requires 600 employees. That is a possible business transaction. So we won't know. So we cannot probably say SARS should have known that in my last 6 years, I only had 10 employees, and all of a sudden I have 600 employees. I mean, those are natural business transactions. Those are possible. I think in the discussions that also came through earlier regarding instances where you are no longer having employees, it is important to also advise us. First of all, if maybe your company or you are active somehow, yes, you can keep your pay as you earn account open with us. And remember that you as a director maybe of your company, you are also deemed to be an employee. So you can pay your income tax via a pay as you earn system, and just reflect that on your provisional tax return, that my tax has already been paid via pay as you earn system. Otherwise, if you are no longer active at all, and the payroll that is going through your company is not sufficient for anyone, including probably yourself, to pay a pay as you earn. By all means, it's important that you advise us accordingly, and we can suspend your account. There's I think it's pay as you earn 1, 2, 3 form that you can complete so that we can put you on suspense. The reason for that is exactly what Henrietta has alluded to that there are some fraudsters around that can capitalize on the profiles, especially profiles of companies that are no longer maybe active. So because it's active on our side but not actually doing work, if the fraudsters can come to probably have access to your profile, there's a lot that can be done. So it's important that you advise us each time there's probably a need for us to put your company pay as you earn on suspense or even deregister it. We will reactivate it whenever you need it. When you start now having employees and paying or maybe paying them sufficiently that they need to pay or contribute to pay as you earn, we will also activate it without any further delay. I thought I should add that. Thank you so much for the airtime, Sis Pamela. Thank you.
Mr. Masumbuka, I just wanted to highlight that I did submit all the affidavits and all that because I was told to do that. My worry is more that when I was told that my audit doesn't have an end date, that is my biggest depressing issue at the moment.
Yeah, in our website, we've got what we call a service charter. In the service charter, we stipulate more or less the duration of each of our processes, including the audit. So if maybe in your case is going beyond the time stipulated in the service charter, we've got processes where you can either escalate the issue. We've got escalation channels that are also known, or you can also lodge a complaint if maybe we are unable to finalize. If we are unable to finalize your audit during the stipulated service charter times. So yeah, you've got channels to raise your concerns, but there is no audit that has got no ending date. No, we don't have that. If there's such, please escalate it. We've got quite a number of escalation levels, right up to the tax ombuds office if we are not getting satisfaction or joy. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Rupert. Thank you, Henrietta. Okay, Evita, please unmute and ask your question.
Hi, good afternoon. So I have a very, I started a small business like last month. So it's very, very new, such that I've only activated a bank account, like as in last week. So being a new entity, I just wanted to ask, and some of my questions might not be relevant. I have contacted SARS, but I have not had any success. Hence, I've joined this platform. So my first question is, do foreigners pay tax? And then freelancers as well, do they pay tax? And when do you pay tax as a small new business? Also, with regards to, I have been invoicing clients, like with small amounts, which obviously doesn't stipulate tax on my invoices. So I would like to know what would be the percentage that I would be paying tax for the business. Is there a threshold? I have checked the online SARS website, and it says that you have to make about, I think, 90 odd thousand per annum in order for you to pay tax. But as a new owner, how do you know or foresee that? I mean, if I need to do tax return like next year, and I've invoiced clients during the year with no percentage of tax, and comes the time when I need to do tax return, and then obviously what would happen then if SARS would then tell me, okay, but you're liable for this amount of tax. So how will I know beforehand? Thank you.
Okay. Evita, yes, foreigners may be required to pay taxes in South Africa depending on their resident status and also the source of their income. So sometimes we use this, we call it ordinary resident test as well as physically presence test. So the residents, yes, remember that are taxed, or you are taxed on your worldwide income, meaning income earned both within and outside of South Africa. So when it comes to you, when do you pay tax? Remember that you need to keep records of whatever you are doing, so that by the time you are submitting the returns, if it happened that you don't meet the requirement of a small business, of which when it comes to income tax, we know that the tax rate is 27%. So immediately when your business is doing a profit, you know that you need to be taxed. The 27% will apply. But if your business is in operation but are making a loss, as much as your business is making a loss, we are expecting you to tell us by submitting your return, of which you won't be taxed. It means your tax will be zero. So we have different kind of tax, of which we have income tax. If it happened that when you are running your business, now you can see that your businesses are attracting a VAT, of which your taxable supplier exceed the 1 million. Therefore, in that case, remember that we will expect you to submit the return required. And then if it happened that when you were collecting, like when you were selling, and then you were able to also charge EVAT, then we are expecting you to know the output tax, and then remember it will be versus input tax. So if it happened that your output was more than your input tax, you will pay the different amount. If it happened that input tax was over the output tax, then SARS will refund you, but you must have the correct record or accurate record. And then we also have the pay as you earn. As you are starting your business, maybe it will happen that you as a director, or you will employed employees who will be earning above the tax threshold, including you, of which now I'm not sure. I think it's 90 something thousand. So if it happened by the year end, the amount, the remuneration that you considered as an expense when you were preparing your financial statement, therefore it means that remuneration, if it's above the tax threshold, therefore you will be expected to pay tax using the tax bracket. So we do have the tax rates as well as the tax bracket on our SARS website. You can download it there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Before I go to the next hand that is raised, can I just quickly ask this question that's been raised on YouTube? The question we have is, can I submit the final EMP501 reconciliation without submitting the mid-year return with regards to the EMP501?
Yes, you can. You are able to submit the reconciliation for the 501, the full final reconciliation, without submitting the biannual. Just maybe if that's how they are asking it. If you're not, you are able to do the final recon. So even if you miss the biannual, you can recover on the full recon.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. Koliswa, please unmute and ask your question.
Thank you so much, Ms. Khanya. So my question is in two folds. One, as a former employee, upon my VSP, the company was closed and we were retrenched. And when they submitted our VSP with SARS, apparently they use the incorrect coding, incorrect codes, and this is a terminology is obviously that I'm not familiar with, that basically affected a few employees that were on a high end. So a few directors made us obviously seem like we did not pay. They submitted an incorrect code that affected us. So most of us actually came out owing SARS like enormous amount of money because of the incorrect code. And when we inquired with SARS, they wanted a directive from the company. But unfortunately, the company was closed and declared insolvent. So, and the former representative of the company are nowhere to be found. And at this point, we can't get help with anyone. And when you try to obviously go to SARS directly, you need to make an appointment. And when you make an appointment online, you need to submit documentations. But the documentation that they want is a directive of the company, which we don't have. And then when you go to the SARS, they said, no, you can't see anyone without an appointment. So it's a catch-22 kind of thing. And where I'm standing now as an employer, as a small business, I need to now obviously onboard my new employees. And I'm worried that my personal tax will now affect me as a director. So I think the two questions is, how do I get an opportunity? Because I think my story is not unique. So I think there are a few employees that managed to resolve this, but they resolved it before the company was completely closed. So my question is in twofold. Number one, does my personal tax can it affect my company? And then secondly, how do I go about resolving this thing that affecting me personally? And this company is nowhere to be found, and SARS is sending me from pillar to post. And every month I'm getting an email to say that I must sort it out, but I don't know exactly how to go about it. Thank you, Pam.
Sis Busi, if you can please assist. Or maybe Rupert, do you want to take this one on?
Yeah, Lucy just made a turn to the ladies. It's a difficult one because the corrections were supposed to be done by the employer in question. And now the employer has vanished. He's nowhere to be found. It's a matter of the lady taking it upon herself probably to write an affidavit so that we can see how we attend to this issue in terms of correcting the declaration that was incorrectly done. The second one is that as an individual, she is completely a separate legal entity from the company. The company is its own legal entity, and she's her own legal person, so to say. But it is always important that the tax affairs of the company are in order, as well as the tax affairs of the individual should always be in order. So I think the most important thing now is to ensure that she attends to her individual case, and at the very same time ensure that the company remains compliant. So that's what is important for now. I just want to make a comment, if you allow me, Pamela. I've been listening, and I think there's a common thread from our valuable stakeholders. And the common thread is mainly ranging between the compliance as well as the activity of the business. And I think at some point, we register for various tax types because we either qualify or we have reasonable expectations that will make the required collective income. For example, some other people register for VAT because of reasonable expectations. And some other people register for VAT because they've already made that particular threshold of 1 million and above in terms of the taxable supplies. But whether the business is whether the business is active or not, it is very important that you are aware of the submission dates of the various returns. And if the business is not active, please submit a nil, because there are a number of businesses whose accounts have been levied with penalties for not submitting their ITR 14 or income tax returns, and some EMP501s, mainly because they think there's no need for them to submit since they are in no business activities. But I'd like to appeal to everyone. If you still want to keep your tax type active, make sure that you are fully compliant in terms of submitting the returns. And at the center of everything, it's honest and accurate declaration, which is honest and accurate reporting. So if you've made money or if your business was active, make sure that you have kept records, but most importantly, you fully and honestly declare, whether it's income or in the form of profit, whether it's a loss, please declare that. Because you've got instances whereby people have made a loss and they think there's no need to make a loss. And you are doing yourself a big disservice, because if you declare honestly your loss, in the year where you'll be starting to make profit, we need to set off the loss against the profit. And if you have not made that particular declaration and submission, so it means you'll be losing out in terms of us setting off the profit. But my message in the main is, let's ensure that at the center of everything, there's proper record keeping. Secondly, there's full and honest declaration. And thirdly, let's make submission of the returns on time. And the last point will be, make payment whenever you're supposed to. And I do understand that businesses are faced with a lot of financial distress and difficulties. In actual fact, colleagues, pays you earn and VAT, these are trust monies. These monies do not depend on the profitability of the business. In terms of pays you earn is payroll taxes. This is money that you have already deducted from your employees, and the expectation is that you need to pay over to SARS. But because of business difficulties, we ended up reinvesting it back into business. VAT, at the very same time, VAT is commodity taxes linked to your input and output. You just need to keep records and pay it over to SARS whenever you're supposed to. But because we understand these dynamics, my request will be, whenever you know that you've got a debt with SARS, SARS is very approachable, colleagues. Please approach us. Let us know about the problems. We will go out of the way to accommodate you through arrangements. And the arrangements will not be about getting you off business or making you not to make a living and survive. It will be about, one, understanding that you've got a duty to pay your taxes. And two, understanding that at the very same time your business must thrive, you must also survive as an individual. And we'll come to an agreement that will be much more, accommodative of both parties. So my key message is that let's not deal with the SARS-related problems out of engaging SARS. Let's ensure that we engage SARS every time we've got debt problems or tax problems, because we are very accommodative when it comes to payment arrangements. And I'll end it right there, Pamela. But the main important thing is that we are very much approachable. We have tried to change our business model. We are now collaborating with stakeholders like yourselves. All these collaborations are mainly done so that we can easily reach out to our taxpayers. And they need to understand that we are very accommodative, and we understand some of the challenges that small businesses are really confronted with. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rupert. And I really think that is a great way to end this webinar. right? And I hope everybody here got something, even if it's just one thing. The most important thing that I hope you have got is that SARS is here to help you and to empower you as a business owner to be more knowledgeable about how you can ensure that your company is tax compliant. And to further stress that this is the first of many webinars that we will be hosting with SARS, whereby SARS is showing you how you can do your own tax returns and also allow time for questions and answers at the end. So thank you so much, everybody. We will be in touch because you have all registered. We will send you communication of when the next webinar will be taking place, which topic that will be addressed during that session. And yeah, looking forward to many more of this. And I hope this was beneficial. Thank you so much. My team and I will stay until the end, but the webinar has officially ended. Thank you.